Mama felt her 3-month-old son smelled rotten, though no one else seemed to notice. She had waited so long for him, and his birth was a dream come true after years of disappointment. Tono, as she lovingly called him, was a joyful, healthy baby with chubby cheeks that charmed everyone around him. But soon, Agap noticed an unsettling odor whenever she held him, an acrid, metallic scent that burned her nose and left an unpleasant taste. She asked her husband, but he didn't smell anything. Her friends reassured her it was just part of postpartum. But Agap felt isolated and guilty. She wondered if she was doing something wrong with his hygiene. After carefully bathing him, throwing out his smelly clothes, and being more diligent with his routine, the odor briefly disappeared. However, one afternoon, while feeding him, the sharp smell returned, and Agap couldn't bear it. On the verge of fainting, she left the room with Toto in her arms. She needed to get some fresh air. She fought back nausea as much as she could, gathering the strength to bathe her little boy. But she couldn't compose herself. The smell followed her everywhere. No matter which room she moved to or even if she went to the backyard, there was no escape. A month ago, she hadn't smelled it. She had thought that changing his bathing routine had solved the problem. But the smell had returned. This episode repeated the next day. And day after day. Agap felt suffocated, invaded by this problem she didn't know how to address. She needed help, as she couldn't contain it anymore. Anguish stirred by worry. When the smell returned to torment her, Agap went to Braulio, her husband. She didn't want him to console or contain her, she just wanted him to smell the odor. At this point, in her desperation, it would be enough for him to hold Toto when he stank, so she could breathe. "Darling, I need you to help me with our son," Agap said, handing the baby to Braulio. He took him in his arms and innocently asked, "Do you want me to hold him for a while? Do you need to go to the bathroom?" Agap lowered her head and asked, "What does Toto smell like?" "Do you smell something bad on him?" she asked. Embarrassed, Braulio slowly inhaled, first bringing his nose close to Toto's hair, then his chubby cheeks, his neck, his tummy, even his diaper and his little feet. He then burst into laughter and said, "He smells. It's a beautiful smell, like a little baby. The sweetest scent I've ever smelled." "Why are you asking? Have you smelled that odor again?" Braulio asked, while playing with the little one. As Agap fanned herself, trying to catch some fresh air, she decided to explain to him, in detail, about the foul odor that was tormenting her. "It hasn't just happened once. Our son stinks sometimes. When I hold him, a nauseating smell comes off of him that takes my breath away and steals my peace. I hope you won't blame me for it because I swear I've bathed him and taken care of every detail so it doesn't happen again. But the smell always comes back. It's true it was gone for a month. So I didn't tell you before. But these last few days, it's appeared again and again. At any time of the day and without any apparent reason. It's everywhere. It sticks to the crib, the stroller, even my clothes. The smell clings to everything Toto touches," Agap said, holding back tears, feeling guilty for having a smelly child. Braulio looked at his wife, so embarrassed that he tried to reassure her. Calm down, darling. You're very tired. And you try so hard to be the best mom in the world. To me, it seems like there's nothing wrong with our son. But let me tell you, everything is going to be okay. Today, I'll stay with him all day while you get some rest, Braulio said, hugging little Toto. With that, he left the room with the baby so Agap wouldn't see the tears streaming down her face. He began walking around the house, humming a song, and from a distance, sent his wife a calm smile to reassure her. That afternoon, Braulio kept his promise and took care of Toto. He paid extra attention when changing the baby's diapers, but didn't notice anything unusual. He tried several times to catch the scent that was bothering his wife, but couldn't find anything out of the ordinary with the little one. Afterward, he bathed him, fed him, and put him to sleep. But the days went on, and with them, Agap's nightmare. She felt tormented by the nauseating smell that appeared unpredictably, with no apparent cause. It was random, sometimes it would show up during the morning routine, ruining her whole day. Other times, it would appear while feeding Toto. Agap started dreaming about the smell because she had no control over it. It would even haunt her during the repeated baths of the little one. Not knowing what to do anymore, Agap decided to take her baby to the doctor. During the consultation, while she described the baby's symptoms, she couldn't help but feel anxious and burst into tears. The pediatrician, the doctor, sympathized with the mother but had never heard of a case like this and secretly believed she wouldn't be able to help her. However, she examined Toto, who was even more beautiful and chubby than ever, and after running all sorts of tests, confirmed that there was nothing wrong with him. When she handed Agap the test results, she smiled and said, "I have very good news for you. The little one is perfect. There's nothing wrong with him. Maybe he's having some digestive issues, and he has gas. But that's nothing to worry about. In fact, it's normal for babies his age," the doctor explained. But Agap knew, or thought she knew, that the doctor was making a grave mistake because she was sure something was wrong. She had already lost hope that anyone would notice. Even Braulio had stopped playing along when she started hyperventilating from the frequent nausea she was experiencing. Agap thought that no one spent enough time with Toto to notice it. And she was right. People had begun to distance themselves from her because she only talked about Toto's bad smell. In addition, Agap had isolated herself due to the frequent and unpredictable anxiety attacks triggered by the foul odor that stuck to everything. When she received Toto's test results and the doctor's diagnosis, Braulio felt relieved. In fact, he started minimizing Agap's anxiety attacks. When she would cry, he would always say the same thing. "Darling, you're not sleeping enough. It's not doing you any good. You've even started imagining things. We should ask your mom for help or hire a nanny to give you a hand. This is too much for you," Braulio said, rather than comforting her. These responses from her husband made her feel even more alone and misunderstood. Agap stopped talking about Toto's smell with Braulio, as he accused her of having delusions and told her to leave the baby alone, to stop saying such horrible things about him. Can anyone imagine a smell so bad it makes you nauseous? Could a mother, even a first-time one, invent such terrible things about her own child? Agap thought to herself. Drowning in her loneliness and without comfort, Agap began to find solace in food. Eating sweets was the only thing that made her feel a little better. She could forget, for a while, about her smelly son. This led her to lose control over her eating habits. And in just 2 months, Agap reached 160 kilograms. In light of this, her friends and family grew concerned and tried to approach her again to offer advice. They listened to her talk about the smell of little Toto's rosy cheeks. And they didn't contradict her so as not to make her suffer more than she already was. Her best friend suggested, "Have you tried bathing him with herbs? We can give him a chamomile bath together. I think we could make a little bundle with some herbs and leave it near your smelly baby." They tried to take it with humor to lift Agap's spirits. This worked for a few days. And Agap began to bathe Toto with herbs and had bundles of aromatic plants all over the house. Casa was desperate and tried every home remedy suggested to her. She followed everything to the letter, mixing all kinds of herbs and ointments. But nothing worked. Toto was deteriorating horribly. Though no one seemed to notice, she did. And that was enough for her. Agapa decided to call her mother for help. Her mother's name was Hortensia, and she lived in the neighboring village. Their relationship wasn't particularly good. But when Hortensia heard her daughter's voice so broken, she didn't hesitate to act. Hortensia offered to move in temporarily to help with the care of Toto. They accepted. And her mother took the opportunity to get closer to her daughter and help her through the difficult time. Agapa moved in immediately. Braulio and Agapa welcomed her with open arms, both completely desperate. Upon arrival, Hortensia was horrified by the physical condition of her daughter. But she didn't mention it. She simply told her, "I'm so happy to be of help. Don't worry, my dear. A mother can feel very lonely, overwhelmed by all the tasks and responsibilities. I know because I've been there. Everything will be fine now. I'm here. And I can't wait to care for my first grandchild." Hortensia followed Braulio's advice to not contradict Agapa. But she observed and listened carefully, especially during the crying fits. She would comfort and hold her, then step away with the baby, listening as her daughter devoured anything she could find. Days passed, and the grandmother could not detect the foul smell of Toto that Agapa described. All she could confirm was that Agapa was going through one of the worst crises she had ever witnessed. That she was very nervous. And that her daughter was struggling with her eating habits. Hortensia wanted to solve the mystery of the smell but found nothing wrong with the baby. This made her happy. But she remained worried about her daughter. So, she began to observe her secretly, so Agapa wouldn't feel judged. By the time Toto turned 8 months old, he was becoming more independent. He could sit up on his own and hold objects in his hands. He had started babbling a few words. However, Agapa couldn't enjoy this new stage of her little one because her psychological distress had noticeably worsened. In fact, her weight had continued to increase, reaching 185 kilograms. Hortensia discovered that her daughter's binge-eating episodes didn't happen all the time. They mostly occurred after anxiety attacks. And the worst episodes happened when Agapa felt cornered by the putrid smell of Toto. Following her mother's advice, Agapa started therapy. "If you're not well, you can't help Toto," Hortensia explained to her. Her friends insisted on this idea. even recommending psychologists. They told her that she smelled the odor because she was struggling with herself. That the smell was trying to tell her something. In the end, Agapa knew that no one believed her. But she followed the advice from her circle and began seeing a psychologist. However, the therapy was slow. She told the therapist everything about the smell, what kind of scent it was, when it appeared, how she felt it in her throat. She also shared her dreams and all the terrible thoughts she had. But the therapist didn't offer any solutions and didn't believe her too much. The problems continued. Her mother was the only person who truly believed in her, who supported her and accompanied her throughout it all. During the months that she lived with Agapa and Braulio, Hortensia dedicated herself to cleaning every corner of the house. She spent all day cleaning Toto's toys and clothes, constantly searching for any trace of the smell or any explanation to ease her daughter's suffering. She never found anything. But that small act of cleaning was the only form of support Agapa received. When Agapa began eating, her mother would start cleaning. And so, the days passed until Toto turned 9 months old. By then, Agapa weighed 200 kilograms. However, her mother's support wasn't enough to make Agapa feel better. Her husband was desperate to save his wife from the pit she was in. Moved by the family's crisis, Braulio had an idea. "I've been thinking about it, and I want us to have a new chance. Let's leave this place behind. Let's leave all the bad things here. Go to a new place. And find a way to live that makes us all happy." That news was like a breath of fresh air for Agapa. She felt that, for the first time in a long while, she was reconnecting with her husband, at least in the desire for everything to change. They both embraced the idea of starting a new life, of breathing fresh air. They decided to move, along with Hortensia, to a new town. They made plans to leave as soon as possible, feeling a mixture of excitement and anxiety in the air. Agapa, with her little son Toto by her side, along with her husband Braulio and her mother, began their journey to the countryside. Inside the car, the atmosphere was filled with hope and expectations for a new beginning. Each of them had their own reasons for anticipating this change. Agapa wanted to leave behind the mysterious smell that had haunted their old home, hoping that in the countryside, she could finally find the peace she so desperately needed. Braulio, with his determination and love, hoped that the change of environment would help their family leave their worries behind and find the happiness they so longed for. However, deep in their hearts, they knew they couldn't leave all their problems behind simply by moving to a new place. But somehow, the trip represented an opportunity to start anew. To let the scent of the countryside erase the traces of past anguish. Inside the car, Grandma Hortensia was gently cradling little Toto, who was asleep in her lap. Agapa wanted to hold him to breastfeed, so she asked her mother for him. Her mother handed him over and continued carefully observing her daughter's behavior. The atmosphere grew increasingly tense as the family continued their journey to the countryside. Agapa took the baby, who woke up crying from the change in position. Still half asleep, Toto sought comfort at his mother's chest, and she tried to calm him, offering him the relief he needed. But the little one began crying uncontrollably. That's when Agapa once again felt that foul odor that had haunted her for so long. It was such a rancid, overpowering smell that it clouded her mind and made her feel nauseous. unable to bear the pain and feeling trapped in an uncontrollable situation. She was engulfed by a panic attack. Desperate to escape the nauseating stench, she opened the car windows, trying to breathe in some fresh air. But Agapa's mind remained tormented by the feeling of helplessness and despair. Hortensia took Toto and, in a moment of clarity, had a quick thought. She asked her son-in-law to drive to the emergency section of the nearest hospital. She believed she had discovered what was happening to her daughter. Agapa was on the verge of fainting. She felt so unwell, struggling to breathe. Braulio accelerated, managing to reach the hospital. They all got out of the car, and the nurses asked about the urgency. Then Hortensia responded, "My daughter is about to give birth." Neither Braulio nor Agapa understood why Hortensia said that. To Agapa, her mother's words seemed insane. How could she be pregnant and about to give birth? Without realizing it, Agapa was rushed in a wheelchair to the delivery room. The doctors quickly performed an ultrasound and confirmed that the soon-to-be mother was indeed ready to give birth. However, alongside the news of the impending arrival of the baby, the little one arrived, but with a shadow of complication. Instead of presenting head down, the baby was in an unusual and dangerous position. Breech, or podalic presentation. The baby's buttocks, instead of the head, were directed toward the birth canal, which dramatically complicated the process. Urgency filled the room as the doctors, with skilled hands and brave hearts, immediately intervened to save both Agapa's life and her baby's. It was several hours of anguish for Braulio and Hortensia. Hours in which the medical team fought tirelessly to ensure a happy ending. Finally, the door opened, and a nurse emerged with a hopeful smile on her face. The good news filled the room. Thanks to the quick and expert intervention of the doctors, both had been saved. The doctor, with seriousness and gratitude in his eyes, further explained the gravity of the emergency. Had the birth occurred in the car while they were leaving the city, the story would have been tragic. But thanks to the prompt response of the clinical team, Agapa and her little one were safe. Excited by the good news, they named the new family member Esperanza. Once they regained their calm, Agapa and Braulio wanted to know the whole truth. Braulio asked, "How did you know Agapa was pregnant?" "I figured it out thanks to Toto," Hortensia replied. "After watching Agapa day and night, I realized it wasn't Toto who was releasing the smell, but my own daughter. It was a hormonal scent too subtle for anyone else to detect. Only the baby and his mother could smell it. The little one cried whenever his mother smelled different, but only at certain times of the day. I confirmed it on the trip because Toto was sleeping peacefully. But when his mother picked him up, he woke up and started crying loudly whenever her smell changed. The little one was unsettled by it, impressed by her observations. They shared the incident with the doctor, who added, after giving birth to her first child, Agapa experienced an unusual hormonal imbalance. Clearly, she ovulated the same month she had Toto. That was the month she became pregnant again. However, Agapa's excessive weight caused her pregnancy to go unnoticed until the time of delivery. Regarding the hormones, it's true that hormonal imbalances can cause breast milk to change in taste at times. Her sweat glands also expelled that odor that only Toto and Agapa could sense. Finally, The mystery of the unusual smell surrounding Agapa was cleared up. And with that, the family regained the peace they so deserved. The arrival of Esperanza, Toto's little sister, filled the house with laughter and love. And the family expanded in a warm embrace of unity. Agapa, deeply moved by the heroism of her little Toto, led Agapa to find a new appreciation for her son's unconditional love. She was grateful, not only to him but also to her understanding and loving husband. Braulio. Agapa saw how the love of her family was a force that could overcome any challenge. Hortensia, Agapa's mother, once again demonstrated her unshakable love by staying with her daughter during those first days, offering unconditional support and maternal wisdom. When Agapa finally recovered, Hortensia returned to her home, carrying with her the satisfaction of having helped her daughter in such a crucial moment. The family was now settled in the countryside. They learned to live happily away from the city and enjoy this new opportunity. The children grew up healthy, surrounded by love and nature. With her calm restored, Agapa stopped suffering from the panic attacks that had overshadowed her life and her family's. In this new opportunity to live in peace and surrounded by love, Agapa found the strength to face her struggles with food. With determination and family support, she regained her ideal weight. And with it, her confidence. After watching the story above, do you have any thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. If you enjoyed our video, please like, subscribe, and share our channel. That's all about today's stories. See you next time.